Thank you for joining us on this episode of Conversations at Night. I am your host, Irene Sidede. Today we'll be talking about how to get out of student debt. For all of you who might be feeling like you're stuck in, not knowing how to pay your student loans and everything, we do have a special guest for you tonight who will be giving you those tips. So stay tuned. Tonight we have a special guest with us. Her name is Tanya Pauling. She's an event producer and she's a business consultant, and she has a little information about how to get out of student loan debt. So I wanted to start with the question, how would somebody start in the steps of getting out of student loan debt?
That's a wide question because first of all, you got to understand how you got into the debt and where do you start? How far into debt are you?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's various parts to it. So let's just say your loan is in default. That's a step you have to take to getting your loan out of default. Or it could just be delinquent. So where are you in the process of being in debt?
All right. So what are some of the different processes someone could be in? Do you know that?
The two that I mentioned.
Okay.
Default and delinquent. Delinquent means you're just behind a couple months or so. So the lenders will be more than happy to work with you. When you're in default, then you have other steps you need to take. You could you could need a forbearance, you could need a deferment, economic hardship, or even rehabilitation. So how deep into debt are you?
All right. And just to dive a little bit deeper into that, I know a lot of people say forbearance and debt forgiveness and just give us maybe a little bit of explanation on each.
Everything?
Yeah.
Okay. My calling, and I'm going to call it that, is if your loan is in default to the point where the IRS is about to garnish your refund, you need me.
Okay.
You need me.
Okay.
I can
So
help
you're
you
the
with
go-to
that.
person
Yes,
for
I'm
that.
the go-to person for
Okay.
that. But deferment, that puts your loan to postpone it. So you can postpone a payment. And it doesn't require you to pay interest if you get a loan deferment. Then you have forbearance. Forbearance pauses your loan. However, it can cause you to get further in debt because the interest continues to accumulate. So you want to be careful with that.
Okay.
And I'm just giving you tidbits of what this is about. The extent of these different variations of debt and paying these debts off, I would advise you to, go to your lender or even go to ed.gov and look into it a little more.
So would you say a lot of people should stay away from forbearance if it means that it's going to keep you in debt? Or what would be your advice to give someone if they came to you and they were like, so
on a personal
which
note,
one is best for me? What would you?
On a personal note, take advantage of what you can take advantage of. But the overall goal is to get out of the student loan debt. People have been paying student loans off. Well, they pay student loans off for years. An example, I heard President Barack and First Lady Michelle, and they will always be President and First Lady, said during their presidency, they just finished paying off their student loan debt. And now they have kids that are going in. Goodness, thank God that they have the finances to cover that. They don't have that to worry about.
Right.
But they're just becoming debt free pretty much. So I would say for me, I took advantage of everything I could take advantage of, from deferment to economic hardship. I advise you to just be clear. Like, I would advise you to do what you have to do to get out of the debt, period. That's the bottom line. I'm not even going to be an advocate for take advantage of forbearances or deferments, none of that. Just get out of debt.
Okay. I mean, I would personally feel as though I wouldn't want to add debt onto my debt. But,
Right.
like you said, it all depends on your situation and how far along you are in the debt. And the goal is to just get out of it
Yes,
at the
that's
end of the
it.
day.
That's it.
And how about loan forgiveness? How exactly does that work?
So my research has taught me that loan forgiveness is kind of non-existent. I've done a lot of research. You can start the process, but there's a couple of things you got to be careful of. There's a lot of scams out there. And you have to understand what that is. That's not like the debt's just going to go away and they forgive you. A part of that is if you are in a certain part of rehabilitating your loan, and that's another
Okay, you're
area.
going to get to that.
If you make a certain amount of payments consecutively, the loan forgiveness kicks in by forgiving the past due that you've had prior to starting the rehabilitation.
Okay.
So if you were 6, 7 months behind, 8 months behind, 10 months behind, a year behind, you can be forgiven of that and pick up where the rehabilitation has begun. Make sense?
Yes, it does. So when rehabilitation kicks in, like when would that necessarily kick
Now
in?
that doesn't
Educate
kick
me.
in.
Okay.
That doesn't kick in.
Uh-huh.
You have to be so far into the default situation that you need rehabilitation. It's like when you messed up. You hurt your leg, can't play
Right.
basketball no more. So you got to go through all these different therapies and all this stuff and rehabilitate yourself and get well again. So you got to get your loan well again in order to get through the rehabilitation.
Okay.
See, the rehabilitation, it helps you in the areas where you want to stop your wages from being garnished.
Okay.
Yes, economic hardship. That is something you can ask for regarding your loans, your loan debt or default. Before you get into default, if you have a lot of medical bills, if you're out of a job, or you have low income, you can inquire about economic hardship, and you should be able to qualify for that under those circumstances, and not just limited to that, but those are a few things that can help you to put your payments on deferment.
Okay. So to draw back to scams, you did mention the scams. How would
Yes.
somebody identify whether they're going through a loan forgiveness scam or if it's actually legitimate?
Well, first of all, scammers call you. Rarely will you call a scammer, because if you're going to make a phone call, then you're doing your research to find out who you should call. So, number one, if someone calls you saying, "Hey, I can get you out of your student loans,"
That's a
hang up the
big.
phone and call your state's education department and find out exactly what this is all about, that phone call. Another way you can tell is, what are they offering you when they say, the debt forgiveness? Because if they say they can just wipe away that student loan debt,
Which I'm guessing that's what they're saying.
chances are that's a scam. They're not wiping away any of the debt. It's just not going to happen. So if you get that call, it's a scam. If you happen to call someone and they say things that are hard to believe, then you might want to hang up and call your lender or call your state's education department to get more information, or you can call the U.S. education department. But of course, you can negotiate all your any type of debt that you're in, because you always, let me not say always, if you're behind in any type of loans, when it gets to the point where it goes into what's the word I'm looking for? Not even default. It's I can't even think of the word, but bill collectors. That's not the word, but if a bill collector is hounding you behind your loans, at some point they're going to offer you a settlement because they want you to pay off this loan. So again, that goes back to what you just said. So you can get a settlement offer, but negotiating, that's, I guess you could call that negotiating,
in some way. Okay.
But they're usually the ones that offer the deal, and they're pretty good deals. So if you get 75% off of what you actually owe and you can pay it, take it.
Okay.
That doesn't really happen with student loans, though.
Okay.
That doesn't happen with student loans. I haven't seen that. If anyone's seen that, you need to contact us and let us know.
Right, because I would like to see that happening.
Sally Mae and Great Falls and all, whoever they are. No, they're not offering that.
And so if, let's say, I just graduated out of college, I have all the student debt, I don't know where to start.
Start paying.
Okay, but breaking it down, would you advise, let's say, maybe I'm looking for somewhere to live. Would you tell me to go live with my parents, or would you advise that? Or do you think it's a good idea rather than advising that? Or find a roommate, spend less than what you earn, save your money?
I advise you, when you graduate, stop, take a moment to contact your student loan lender and start talking about making payments. Or as soon as you get a book, as soon as you get a payment letter, whatever they send you, you need to contact them immediately. Don't wait, because what I'm learning is that a lot of students, they get out of school and they forget about the loans.
Right.
They forget all about it.
Or they avoid the loans.
They avoid and
Too,
forget.
yeah.
Because now they're off to their new life or afraid to live life, whatever the case is. And they don't pay attention to these phone calls that come in. They're learning to ignore the 1-800 calls. Answer those phone calls, because the more you ignore the calls, the worse this situation is going to get. And one thing about lenders, they love when you communicate. That is number one. You got to communicate with these people and let them know where you stand, because one of their jobs is to help you, help them, help you. Because the person on the other end, they get credits and points and stuff when they communicate with a borrower, and they can go back to their supervisor and say, well, this is what I had lined up. And, they're eager to help you because that's their job.
Okay.
They get bonuses and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to communicate with the person on the other line. Pick up the phone, talk to them, work it out. It's important. Communication is key. I've seen where, in some instances where, for me, for example, when I started paying off my student loans, wink. When I started paying off my student loans, I communicated with these people. I'm telling you, it took me years before I actually started making a payment.
Okay.
Years. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many years. I'm not going to tell you that it will work for you. It's based on individual experiences. You know what I'm saying? So, but the only way that worked for me is I had to pick up the phone and communicate with them. Now, my interest rate went sky high. I had to go into rehabilitation on my loans to keep them from taking my my refund. But I did what I had to do. I communicated with them, and that's huge. That's huge.
And just a personal question, what mistake would you say that you made before you made that phone call to the lenders?
Well, the first mistake I made was not answering the phone. The first mistake I made was when I received a letter in the mail from Navient, however you say it, and Sally Mae.
Okay.
I pretend to be confused, like, oh, wow, oh. And I put it down, and then, I said, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And then another one came, and I'll get to it. And then the phone started ringing. And as the phone started ringing, something just told me, pick up the phone and tell them what was really happening. And I picked up the phone, and I did what I had to do. I communicated with them, and it worked.
Okay.
So the mistake was ignoring those first letters and phone calls.
Okay. So you know from firsthand
From
experience, which
firsthand
is what
experience.
that's what I love. So now people can know.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
That's right. That's right. Even when you're leaving school, talk to your advisors and ask them, what's your next step when it comes to your student loans. I think most students just leave school not even concerned about that. I'm sure they do exit, interviews before you actually leave school. Get that information and know what you need to do, because student loan debt, like, that can keep you from getting a lot of things. That will jack your credit up. Like I said, it will jack your credit up. Looking at my credit report when I was initially going through all of this default stuff, I'm looking at all these student loans lined up in default, in default, in default, in default. I was like, default, default. Wow. And then you don't realize how many loans you have until you see how it affects you, or when you're starting to pay it back.
Right.
Because in your mind, you're probably thinking you just have one student loan, but no, because you have, I don't know how it happened to me. I don't know about you, but I had several loans that I
you
had to pay back. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Right.
And now I'm actually, I think I have one loan left. It's been over 10 years. I have one loan left, and I think I can pay it off in a short period of time.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
And apart from calling, the lenders to get help, is there anybody else that somebody could call to get help? Because I know a lot of people struggle with finances.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest, especially when you just got out of college and you're just in the world.
I recommend that you, again, contact your lender and also contact the education department in your state and see what they can do to help you.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are no loan
Consolidating
consultants
and stuff like that. There's lots of lenders out there that will refinance your loan. So they'll give you a loan for your loan. So now you have another loan to pay off a loan. You may not want to do that. You may want to communicate with your lenders, because consolidating, I don't know a lot about consolidating, but let's just say you take all your loans and you put them together. This is consolidating. Now you're making one lump sum payment. So you're paying for that. You're paying a fee for that lump sum payment. So you have various fees that you're paying these people for consolidating your loans, and it's probably something you can do yourself. I don't really want to get into loan consolidating,
right?
Because that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep your money in your pocket and keep the IRS from being the middleman and taking your money from you and paying off your student loan debt for you. Pay your own student loan debt.
Okay. And, go ahead and describe exactly what you do to the audience.
Well, what I do, I sit you down and I find out where you are with your student loan debt. If it's in default and you haven't been paying it, and now your loan is in offset with the IRS, that simply means the IRS is the middleman. So you got a nice chunk of change coming back from your refund, and you're excited about this $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000, and the IRS was told, if that does happen to come through, give that to us, please. So Sally Mae or whoever your lender is will take that money from your refund.
Wow.
And there's nothing you can do about it once they take it. But you can be proactive and you can do your homework, and you can find out in advance if your money is in offset. And if it is, then you can start doing your work immediately. Start working on it and start making your payments to rehabilitate your loan. And as long as you're in rehabilitation, they will not garnish your wages. What will put that back in default is if you do not honor your commitment and pay these payments on time. Because when you are in rehabilitation, your payments have to be on time for a certain period of months consecutively. Like you have to make these payments on time.
Right. So if you could, give us a brief explanation on some of your services that you provide to students who are in debt, what would those services be exactly?
Again, my services would be to anyone who is in default and their wages are being garnished. I can assist with helping them get out of that situation. That's what I do. If the IRS is set to take your refund, I can assist you with that. Only when it comes to student loans. I don't deal with child support and all that, so don't come over here. But there is help for that too, but not with me. So I can help if you're in debt to the point where your wages are being garnished. That's what I do.
And I know you had mentioned off camera a scenario of drip.
Oh, drip.
What exactly does
drip is like this. You know you have a problem. Fix it, because if you don't fix the problem when you start getting the symptoms, it gets bigger than what it initially started out to be. And I'll give you an example. I had a drip in my backyard with the faucet, and I saw the drip and I ignored it. I said, oh, it'll be okay. I'll get to it later. And I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off. And I put it off so long that the drip became a flood. Like we literally had a flood in the backyard. So all I'm saying is if you have a drip, that is your sign that something needs to be taken care of. Don't wait for the drip to cause a flood. Handle your business.
Right. Don't wait too long.
Just get it done. Just get her done. Get her done.
That's good advice. That's good advice. I hope people take note of that for sure. Like, just get it started. All right, Miss Tanya. So for the people who are looking for you, where exactly can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, which is tanya.is.true. That's TANYA.is.TRU. And you can also find me on Facebook, which is Tanya Pauling. And in the profile pic, you'll see my logo, True. And if you want to call me, you can call me at 1-561-800-0223. I'll be more than happy to help you with that.
All right. And I do know you do business consulting and event producing.
Yes.
So if you could let everybody know about that as well.
So the business consulting, I help small businesses with their administrative work. And what I do is I help renew certifications. You may not have the time to go on sunbiz.org and set up your LLC or reinstate your LLC. You may not know the deadlines for those things. I know all of that. I've been doing this stuff for 14 years.
Okay.
That's my specialty. I also help with setting up your workman's comp, because a lot of 1099 contractors, they need that type of stuff. So I can do that.
Okay.
I also connect businesses with businesses, especially if you're having an event and you're looking for speakers, you're looking for DJs or, talent. I can help you with that. And
with your event producing, because I do know you have a reputation in the Central Florida area.
I like that, the Central Florida area. You heard what she said, right? So I do event production and promoting. I generally promote and produce my own events, but occasionally I will work with others, and partner up. The last event we did was in January. I partnered with I Am Woman Proverbs 31 Ministries, and we did a awards gala called Strength of a Woman 2019, which was amazing and phenomenal. Yes. We had great speakers, great talent. It was just an awesome, awesome event. If you want to know more about that event or see pictures from that event, you can always go to my Instagram. Again, that's Tanya, TANYA.is.TRU, and check out the photos from there.
Yes, and that was actually a great event. I was actually there, and we even had Marielle on the show who gave us a little bit about the whole event and her whole foundation and Strength of Women. It was
Marielle
awesome.
is awesome. Yes. She is awesome. And you had Josh, too, from what I understand. Joshua Wilson. He's a motivational speaker, someone that I'm really cool with as well.
And that was Miss Tanya Pauling. She did give you advice on how you could possibly get out of student loan debt. I hope you do take her advice into consideration. If you like this episode, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment down below as well to, give us topics on what you'd like to see, what you'd like to hear, and keep the conversation going as well. My name is Irene Tidede, your host, and thank you for watching Conversations at Night.